Hi everyone, how are you? What a great facility you have here. Thank you for having me today. My husband was going to be joining me, but when we set this up some time ago, we weren't anticipating having to put our dog down in November. And that was really tough. And we got a new puppy 2 days ago. And that's been really tough. So, and he's getting over the flu. So he's at home, like taking care of the dog, but thank you for having me today. It's a great facility. We've been hearing a lot about it, thanks to Ryan Height, who we're blessed to have on our stations Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. I'm sure you've heard him on there, but. As far as business and faith and how they interact, I mean, I think everything we do in our life, our faith comes first, right? So, you know, being a business owner is very tough at times, but I always say if we do what we're supposed to do and we walk in faith and trust God, you know, He's going to lead us the best ways to make things happen. But as far as business, Rick and I, you know, I'm sure you guys know at your age, I didn't know what I wanted to be when I was in high school. I don't think I really knew what I even wanted to be until I was close to 30 years old. But I knew I wanted to be a mom. And for us, we never wanted our kids to have babysitters or be in a daycare type environment. So Rick had always been working with computers and IT and ran data centers for major companies, and he would work third shift. And I went into real estate so that I could make my own hours and be at home with the kids. So I would let him sleep during the day, and then I would go work. And we did that for a very long time, just so that our kids didn't have to be with the babysitter. Because I believe that it's so important to know what's happening with your kids and know, you know, what they're learning. So we did that for some time, and I had never planned on getting involved with radio. That was nothing even on my thought. But at the time, after being in real estate for, I don't know, probably at that time, 10 to 15 years, one of my brokers at that time, I was the youngest one in the office in real estate in St. Peter's. And she just casually mentioned to me one day, do you want to do a radio show with me? And I was like, radio? Like, I can't do a radio show. What are you talking about? And she's like, why can't you? And I'm like, I wouldn't even know what to do. So that's kind of how it began. I just helped her start a radio show. At that time, we were on a small station, 104.5 FM. We did that for 2 years. And I would say the one thing in business that I've learned for me, the main reason I do what I do with business is because I wanted to be present with my kids and make my own hours. So when I do find something's not working or, you know, it's not worth my time, I try to eliminate it. So after 2 years of doing that, I was like, this just isn't worth it. I haven't even had a phone call from doing this show, and it wasn't costing me anything. You know, at that time, my broker was paying for it. A lot of people think, you know, if you're on the radio, it's free and they're paying you. A lot of the times people are paying to be on the radio. People don't realize that. So I was going to stop doing it, and my husband, I was not into politics at that time at all. I actually used to be a Democrat. I was raised in a Democratic household. My dad was a union auto worker, and until the day he passed away 6 years ago, he still was. So I was not even someone concerned about politics. And my husband was a big 97.1 FM news talk listener at that time. And he's like, it's because you're on the wrong station. Like, you need to be on the right station if you want to get calls. And he's like, you should be on 97.1. And I'm like, what is that? And so that's kind of like when it started. So I didn't know what it was at the time, and started listening and like, well, I don't want to be a politician, and he's like, it's not about that. It's about, that's our audience. That's who you want to talk to. That's who a lot of people, that listen to that station are homeowners, own businesses, Christians. So that was our audience. So I contacted them, went in, had meetings. Of course, it's a lot of money to do a business type show on the radio for some stations. But I started doing a show there. I did that for 10 years. And then Rick, after our business continued growing, which took time, but at one point we were selling 60 million a year in real estate. And Rick was always licensed as long as I have been, and he got licensed basically because a lot of our family lives in Arkansas, my grandparents who have all passed away now, but it was very important for us, for our kids, to be around them as often as possible. So a lot of times I would take them to Arkansas to visit family and grandparents on the weekends, and I had Rick get his real estate license so that he could handle my work that came up when I was gone. And so he ended up leaving his career probably about, I guess, now it's probably been 12, 13 years ago, because at that point we were like, it's more important to have quality time, even though it was scary, because one of the things about being a business owner is being responsible for health insurance, all of those things that come with that. So that was kind of scary to walk away from a corporate career where you receive those things. But we felt at that point it was better to have better time together than to have those extra benefits. So he would take over my real estate stuff. He joined me on the radio show as well, and we kind of grew the show, and we were happy and had a great quality of life until 2020 came, and everybody kind of lost their mind, in my opinion. And we were just like, what is going on? Trying to figure it out. And it was scary for all of us, including our home. Nobody had been through anything like that. And, you're just kind of watching things, trying to figure it out. But I knew something wasn't right. And then when the election happened, and I say, no matter where you stand on politics, whether you're a Democrat or a conservative, like, you knew something wasn't right in that election. So I'm the type of person, and so is Rick, that we believe you have to stand up and speak your truth, even if there's not always the outcome that you're looking for. So when 97.1 kind of turned to, not allowing people to come to the station during that time, or you had to wear a mask if you came, and they, just acted like the election was over when Fox called it for Biden. We were like, something is seriously wrong here. Like, what's going on? So we started questioning everything. I turned off the TV, stopped listening to the TV, probably dove more into God and the Bible than I ever had in my life, just because I was like, what's happening to our world? So at that time, our kids, our youngest was in high school. At that time, he was a freshman. And I thought, what are we going to leave our kids? Like, if this is what we're getting to, where we have drag queens reading to kids in libraries, and that's okay. And, men participating in women's sports. I'm just like, this isn't the America that I sacrificed a lot for, and my family who served in the military, to watch it deteriorating so rapidly. So I felt like we had to do something. I did not want to start a radio station. That wasn't even on my radar. But I basically turned our real estate show into a political show, which I had never talked about politics really during our real estate show. And we started talking about politics, and we basically started telling people who to go listen to, where they could find information and news that we felt they weren't getting on television. And that went on for probably about 2 months until I got a call from corporate and 97.1's local management saying, hey, we love you, but you can't do that anymore. And I had been on that station at that point, nearly 10 years. And I was like, what do you mean? I can't tell people the truth? And they're like, there's no proof the election was stolen. There's no proof that the vaccine's bad. You can't be telling people that stuff. And I'm like, I'm giving facts, like places to go, find the information. And they're like, okay, well, we're just telling you, if you keep talking about those things, you're not going to be able to be on the station. So I was like, okay, well, I'm going to make it easy for you. We're done. So I walked away from the station at that time because I was like, we're paying you to be on here. You're not going to tell me what we can talk about. So after I did it, though, I was like, holy crap, what'd I just do? Like, I built my career off this radio show, and our youngest son, who's now a licensed realtor and works with us, was planning on going to real estate. And I was like, oh my goodness, what is he going to do if I don't keep this growing? My intent was to keep it growing so that our kids could be involved. So then I had to rethink things. And again, it wasn't even just about business. It was about nobody's hearing all this stuff. We would have people call us crying and just say, thank you so much for telling the truth, or telling me where I could go and listen, because nobody else is telling this stuff. And I was like, these people, a lot of these people aren't on social media. They're not seeing any of this. So I went to other so-called local conservative stations that were launching around the same time, and just told them, we want to be involved. We want to do something to make a difference as well. I found out they were going to be more in line with like a 97.1 as well. And I'm not knocking 97.1. Not everybody agrees with everything I agree with. There's a place for everybody in America to have their own voice. I just did not want to be censored and told what I could or couldn't talk about, as long as I wasn't saying anything bad or wrong. I didn't feel that that was right in America, especially on a conservative radio station. But there's a place for everyone, and I just don't like censorship. So when I was talking to the other stations, finding out I was going to be in the same boat, I was only going to be allowed to talk about certain things. They wanted to be more in the middle, and I was like, I'm not looking to be in the middle. Think God is speaking to me of, I'm looking to see who's willing to stand right now, regardless of the consequences, is how I felt. And I'm like, whether it hurts my career, and it has, basically because people think, oh, they're radio people now, they don't have time to do real estate. So we definitely have had an impact on our real estate career. But I don't worry about it, because I always say, if you have faith and trust in God, He's going to take care of it, as long as you keep doing the right thing. So that's what we continue to do every day. But when I knew I could not find a place where we could have a voice and talk to people openly, I was like, we're just going to have to do it ourselves. Which I'm like, we're not wealthy. We're like, how are we going to go just start a radio station? But that's why I knew it was God, because it's not like I have any business having radio stations. But we prayed a lot, had a lot of people supporting us. I just started making calls. I ended up calling a gentleman who's probably one of the most democratic people I know, who was in charge of these stations that we now have. And he was getting ready to launch them with a rock and roll type format. And I said, well, I have another idea. This is what I'm thinking. And mind you, I'm talking to a very democratic person. And he's like, yeah, well, I'm not interested, but thank you for calling. I wish you luck type phone call. And I was so defeated, because it was like my last hope of getting stations. And so I was at peace with it, though, because I thought, well, I've done everything I can. If it's meant to be, it's going to be. And I don't know what else to do. And about 2 or 3 days went by, and he called me back and said, you know what? I can't get you off my mind since you called me and told me everything that you said. I just want to meet you. Can we just meet and have a conversation? And the owner of the license of the stations wants to meet you as well, which is Buzz Echo Camp. The Echo Camps own Washington Bank in Washington, Missouri, and some other banks. And I was like, sure, I'd love to meet you. So that's kind of how it snowballed, but that was God, lining up all of that, or would have never happened. So I had a meeting with them, kind of laid out everything I was thinking. When we started this, it was supposed to be us doing it together with Buzz, because again, it's not like we're wealthy. And so I put together the plan, the host, I had everything lined up, had everything ready to go, the websites, the app, the social media pages, the name, and then Buzz decided to let us know, I just can't get involved in it. I'm just so busy with the banks. You're gonna have to do it on your own. And I was like, what? Like, are you kidding? Like, I can't do this on my own. And he's like, well, I just can't, Tracy. I just don't have the time. It's gonna be a lot of time. And so then at that point I was so vested. I'm like, I can't let all these people down. Like, I have everything lined up, host picked out. So I was like, we're just gonna have to do it ourselves. So that's what we did. It's been a ton of work. We've had a great commitment from a lot of people, like Ryan, all of our hosts who knew coming in, like we've always been honest with them, like we can't afford to pay you a salary. Like, you will be paid based on sponsors that sponsor your show. But we've all walked in faith because we've all known we're doing it for the right reasons. And we believe that if you do that and you live like that, God will take care of it and keep providing. So that's what we do every month. I say, as long as you're gonna keep providing to cover the bills, because for the first year, Rick and I had to cover all the shortages. It's very expensive to have 3 radio stations, and not to mention payroll and everything else that goes into that. So to date, Rick and I still haven't paid ourselves anything. We've done it now. It was 3 years in August that we've done it for free, essentially. But that's being a business owner. Sometimes you have to work for free for a while to reap the rewards. But for us at this stage in life, it wasn't even about the money. It was about feeling like you're making a difference. Real estate is where we make money when it's busy. The last 4 years has been really rough because of the Biden administration. So I'm excited to see what happens with the Trump administration. Hopefully that will make a big difference. So that's what we do every day. Our stations now cover 70, I think the last time I checked, 70 countries in every state in the US we're listening on our app. We get about 3 million hits a month on our website, and our Facebook and social media pages now we have about 65,000 followers. So it's growing rapidly, and if nothing, it tells me that people are hungry for information and truth, and they don't feel like they're getting it a lot of places. It was important to us to not only have political talk, but to have Christian talk as well. So I've tried to add as many, Christian shows as I can on the weekends, because I think people are turning to that more as well now, because they know that how important their faith is after what we've been watching happen the last 4 years. So I try to add people that I think can make a difference in people's lives as well. But what questions did you have for me? Any questions that you could think of, or anything you'd like me to answer?
I just have a comment. I was going to listen on the way down here, and I do listen all the time. But for some reason, I wasn't getting a signal on your station.
Which station were you listening to?
93.3.
So sometimes in the St. Louis County area, there are pockets that don't come in, and that is because there's another iHeart also owns a 93.3 signal here in St. Louis County. And we're trying to do what we can to get that as well. But again, that's a process. But they don't have anything on it, but they keep it down, but it does interfere with ours. So that's what that is about.
Well, what I was going to say is, so then I flipped over to 97.1. And I happened to run right into a commercial for pneumococcal vaccines for people 65 and over, and the very last thing that it said on there is sponsored by Pfizer. And I said, that explains why you were not allowed to say this, that, or the other thing.
Yeah, and what other people don't know when it comes to radio, Rick and I, there was a lot of government money available if we would have aired COVID vaccine commercials. We could have done very well if we would have been willing to do that. And we were probably one of the only, that I know of, one of the only local radio stations that didn't do that. You know, if we would have, we could have been making a lot of thousands of dollars every month. But I was like, I'd rather lose this station than sacrifice, you know, my morals to do that. So we did not do it, but that's why you hear a lot of those. It is frustrating though. What people don't realize is we're grateful that we're able to air shows like Charlie Kirk, Mark Levin. I think they have great information. But what people don't realize is we have no choice but to air commercials that are put into their show. That's the deal we have to make in order to air their show. Occasionally, there have been times where some of theirs are Pfizer, which is very frustrating. And I even get on the phone with the companies who provide their shows, and it's not something that Charlie Kirk's doing or Mark Levin, it's Salem or Westwood One, the companies that provide us those shows. They're gonna take money from anybody that will give it to them. But what we do really work hard at when it has happened, we get on the phone with them, we try to get them to provide us other commercial options to use instead, but it's a lot of work on our part. But occasionally when they air, people freak out and they're like, oh, you're taking their money. I'm like, we're really not. Like, we've actually lost a lot of money because we haven't taken it. But some things are out of your control in radio. But that is why sometimes the pockets don't come in St. Louis County. You can always download the app though and listen. But it does go pretty far. It's much more solid when you're along the highway. Once you get into the towns, it's a little tougher. Our tower is in Truesdale. It's about a 500-foot tower right off Highway 70. But you can hear it very clear all the way to Columbia, about the exit before Columbia, Kingdom City. And we do go into Illinois. We go all the way into Rolla on 93.3, very clear. We're actually much better west than east, unfortunately. But we do go pretty far that direction. When you get to Rolla, that's when 107.3 comes in, and that goes about a half hour away from Springfield. Then we also go 61 north all the way past Bowling Green with 93.3, but then 104.3 comes in, and that goes all the way into Quincy, Illinois. So we really do have a far reach on the radio. A lot of people don't realize how far of a reach we do have. But I think the thing I'm most proud of is giving people a place to go. They felt like they had nowhere to go and feel like they had a community, and to hear things that could help their life. And to see small businesses. We tried to make the advertising as affordable as we could to help small businesses grow during this time. And I think that we really have made a difference in a lot of people's lives. The small business owner tells us all the time, like, you've tripled my business, I can't thank you enough. Tilted Skillet, who advertises with Ryan on his show, they're opening their third location now and opening one in Union. So all the businesses have benefited. So while they've helped us be able to keep doing what we do every day to give y'all a voice and a place to go, they've also helped themselves grow. And, I think small business is so important for strong communities, and real estate values. If you don't have great communities, your real estate values are going to suffer. So that has been something that I'm also glad that we've been able to do and make a difference in.
Could you repeat the other numbers for the other two stations? 103 what?
104.3
104.3.
and 107.3. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes.
Well, it's interesting that George Soros bought you know, the Mighty Mox, KMOX, and then they bought 97.1.
Well, he didn't buy it, but he's a majority share owner in Odyssey. And Odyssey, there is a lot of stations in that umbrella, and you're right, 97.1 is one, KMOX, but he is a majority share owner. That is something that a lot of people are very upset about. Is it okay, I'm gonna grab a chair and sit here instead of this booth, because I always say, talking to people, I like it when I can just sit down and feel like I'm sitting in my living room talking to you. I don't like feeling like I'm like preaching to you. But people are not happy about that. But what I will tell you has been the most other aggravating thing to learn is, and I know Ryan has been in the political world for a long time. Like I said, I have not, but I knew I had to be. But I think I've learned Missouri politics probably has as many issues, if not more, than the federal. So that has been.
Rob Carter's pointed that out.
I'm sorry?
Rob Carter points that out.
Yes, all of our hosts try to bring attention to it. But it's very disappointing at times. But at the same time, what I really wish that we could get people to do is listen better and learn that we all have to work together. And like I tell people all the time, oh, thank you. I'm like, we're all Americans. It's okay if we don't agree. My dad was, like I said, the biggest Democrat I've ever met, and I loved him more than anything in the world. We could have conversations about politics and still be fine when we left the room. You don't always have to agree with everybody 100%. And I think that we have to get back to a place to where we can all have conversations. So while our station is very conservative, because for me, really, Rick and I say this all the time, it's not even about Republican or Democrat, it's about the Bible and God. So that's why we do what we do. And I feel like if you're living your life following that, it puts you in that far right conservative world if you are reading the Bible, in my opinion. So if that makes me a far right conservative, so be it. But it's not about politics, it's more about your faith and God. But at the same time, as Christians, if we're really living like we're supposed to be, we should listen to the other side. And that's why we say all the time, we want everyone to have a voice. Even if it's a Democrat, we welcome them to come on the station, because while I don't agree with them, I say it's the best way for them to expose themselves. Like, let them discuss it and let us like say things to them, because a lot of times it makes them stop and think. You never know when you may change someone's mind, like me. You know, I voted for Gore. You should have been in my household when Rick voted for Bush and I voted for Gore, and I thought they stole the election. You know, I didn't talk to him for days. So that was an interesting week. And I'm like, I'm so mad at you. But he knows how I am as well. So he would always tell me why and he voted for Clinton. So just to tell you, like, how it's not like we were always this. It's just as you get older, I think you start looking at things different. You become parents. You start, especially when you have a business, you really look at things different. But it's not about money like people always act like it is. People always act like it's just because they don't want to pay taxes. That is not what it's about. For me, it was about just realizing, like, I don't want all this. You know, this isn't good. What I was raised that conservatives were always about money and being the rich, but it's really not. If you really do your homework and look at everything, it's waste. Like, we don't want waste, and we don't want other people deciding where our money goes. Like, look at all the things they're finding right now. Why are they such an uproar over what Elon Musk is finding? What do they have to hide? Like, it's our money. Go ahead.
Well, because there's a big difference between a Republican and a conservative.
I agree.
And when you're talking about Bush, you know, I mean, there was a whole swath of Republicans through there that weren't all that different from Democrats, and they were all big spenders. So, you know, it's being a conservative, and that's when people ask me, about my political party, I say, well, I'm a conservative, which means I have to, lean toward the Republican Party because the Democrats have gone so far to the left, there's, you can't exist as a conservative Democrat. Certainly not at the federal level. I don't think that you are able to run as a pro-life Democrat at the federal level because of the DNC platform. At the state level, you've got a handful of Democrats still. But nevertheless, I always correct people when they say, oh, you're a Republican. I always say, I'm a conservative.
Yeah.
Because that means that I may not like a Republican you like.
Yeah. Yeah, if you listen to our station, you probably heard in the past, like, we used to run a lot of commercials that would say, no Rhino radio here, no Rhino radio here, like, because I didn't want that. I wanted to be different from all the other stations, and I do think we are. But I pulled those a few months ago because I'm very intuitive of listening to what I think God puts on my heart. And I think too many times people hear things or feel things and they just don't pay it much attention. I've learned more than ever the last 4 years that that's God, like, speaking to you. Like, there's a reason we have intuition. I don't even want to get into that because everybody feels differently, but I even had a word from God for the first time in my life in January of last year. And so that really got my attention. And when I say a word, I mean an audible word. I know that probably, like, some people are like, yeah, okay, but I don't care. It happened to me. But I'm just saying I've learned to really listen. So I thought, how can I sit here and preach about, like, being accepting of all, being a Christian, and then be airing commercials, say no Rhino radio here, even though I don't want rhinos in office. At the same time, this is America, and we're all different. We're never going to all agree, and that's okay. Every host on our station is different. I have people that can't stand Rob Carter because he calls out people. I have people that get aggravated with Peggy because she might not say a name right. And I'm like, that is America. We are all different, and that's okay. But everybody deserves to have a voice. Our rules have always been, as long as I don't like cursing on the radio. Even though occasionally Peggy slips, I have to really keep an eye on Peggy. But I don't like cursing. I'm like, don't bash God. You would not think you would have to say that, but I found out the hard way. I do. When a host came on that ended up being an atheist, and I had no idea. So don't bash God, no sex talk. Those are just kind of our 3 rules. I'm like, other than that, you can say whatever you want as long as you're not bashing someone without facts or using the word allegedly. So, because I think that's what America should be. As long as you're doing things the right way, I think we should have freedom of speech. I don't agree with practically anything that Democrats stand for or do today, but they have the right to say what they want. And I tell people, they hang themselves, let them talk. I don't care what they say because, they expose themselves. It's best to let them talk instead of us doing it. So that's why we love to give them a voice. And all of our hosts, I think, do this. We always say it, but we're going to be respectful if they come on here. We're not bringing them on to attack them or bash them. Let them say their piece, have a voice, and if we don't agree, you can tell them why you don't agree, but let's have real conversations. So that's what we try to do. Yes?
Could you talk about business-wise, what you see with the Trump administration, maybe some of his cabinet picks, and where you see
I'm really happy about his cabinet picks, and I think that's one of the things, for me, a lot of very far-right conservatives were not happy about Kennedy, which I'm like, again, if we're going to bring America together, I wouldn't want Kennedy going and deciding a lot of other things, but when it comes to health,
The EPA.
what?
We don't want him in charge of the EPA. For
Yeah,
instance.
but when it comes to health, I'm like, he's passionate about that. I've learned in business, you cannot be good at all things, even though I've tried to be. You cannot. There's many things I'm very bad at. But it's best when you find people that are great at one thing and put everybody in their right place. And if that means they don't agree with us on abortion or other things, I'm not thrilled about his beliefs on that. But at the same time, that's not what he's there for. He's there if he ends up getting confirmed to do something about our health, which we definitely need here in America. So I'm all about that. And I think as far as Musk, do I trust Elon Musk 100%? Absolutely not. But again, I respect anybody who's willing to work for free, give up their time. He doesn't have to do this, nor does Trump. I say all the time when people bash him, I'm like, I mean, you think about it. Like, if we all sat here right now and thought, if I had his kind of money, his kind of life, would I be shot at, be tortured, called names, harassed all the time? Most people would not do that. He doesn't have to do this. He's doing it because I think, just like Rick and I, when you reach a certain stage in your life or a certain age, I don't know how much time I have left here on this earth. I want to make a difference in the time I have and leave my kids something better. And I think that's what it's about for him. So I think, I pray, because I wasn't happy with how Trump handled COVID. I've talked about this openly. I don't like how he handled it. But we're never going to agree with anyone 100%. It's about finding the person who is most in line with what you think. So I don't agree with how he handled COVID, but at the same time, I have enough sense to understand he, had to make difficult decisions for all of us as well, and he was getting it from all directions. And you're trusting that the people that you have giving your information are doing it for the right reasons. So I feel like God put us through this time to wake us up and make us see, like, this is what can happen if you guys don't wake up and get involved. And is that the America we want? So while I felt like the last 4 years was miserable, I'm grateful for it because I think it woke up so many people to get involved. And that's the best thing you can do, is get involved. Just show up, and if nothing else, listen and learn and go educate someone else on what you heard, because we have to get involved. We got complacent. I did as well, naive. I came home and we worked all the time. We'd come home, listen to Fox News, and thought, okay, we know what's happening, and go on about our life. So I didn't listen to Fox News for 3 years after the election because I was so disgusted with them even. And I still listen, not often, because look at what's happening. We're finding out about all this government waste and Politico and all this money that they've been fueling to them, basically so they tell us what they want us to know. So if whether you listen to our station or not, that's the best thing I could say. And we all know if we soak up the Bible every day, read scriptures, and get in the Word, and go find your own news. Don't be fed. We were all listening and being fed information for too long, and that's kind of what got us to where we're at today, in my opinion. Any others?
Yes. One of the things I appreciate about the station is that, and there's several things, but the one that I just want to bring up right now has to do with your support and reporting on national issues, state issues, and also local issues.
Yeah.
I just wanted to see, what has been your thoughts? You have thoughts about that, about bringing in all these different levels? Like there's school board members that come on and talk, and conservative school board members. Just your thoughts on that.
That was important to us because without good schools, it's our children are everything. That's that's why Rick and I based our entire careers around our kids. Because we wanted, that was what was most important to me in my life, was raising good kids. So when we started this, we want to give people a voice to try to make a difference in the school boards. I'm sad to see, whether I feel a certain way or not. If I was involved in a school board, I would not bring my politics into that, even though I would, push to keep litter boxes or, drag queen stuff out of my libraries and my schools. I think there's a time and a place for everything. Some of the things I'm witnessing from school board members to boycott even our station. There's school board members that, tell people to boycott our station, to not support the businesses that support our station. We've dealt with that a lot. What I will say, one of the hardest things about having the stations has been to pick the right host. That's something that we've worked hard to try to find the right people. And what I found is, you may think you have the right people. We tried to have a show focusing on school boards and bring attention to that with different people that were very passionate. But I learned the hard way, that 1 month they might be perfect for what you think is what you should be talking about, and then the next week you're like, oh my gosh, they might say something like birds are robots, and I'm like, what? Like, no, birds are not robots, like God made birds, like what are you talking about? So you have to be very careful. So that has been something we've been trying to really figure out, because it's very hard to give everyone a voice when everybody feels so differently, and you never know what someone's going to say about something like that. I'll never forget that day when that was said on the radio. I was like, oh my gosh, you've got to be kidding me right now. So that is my point. I like to give everyone a voice, but when it comes to things that I know God created, I'm not going to be listening to that. And I want people to take us seriously. And if we're saying things like that, like people, I don't want to be a conspiracy theorist station. I want to be taken seriously for news and information.
So how much of, you just said you heard it on the radio that day, you're busy. How much of the programs are you able to, do you kind of audit like randomly, you're going to listen to this one or that, or you listen to
Very random. Poor Brian knows well. A lot of times they'll be talking about something they said on the radio, and I'm like, oh, I didn't know you guys even talked about that. So what people don't know is, and again, I don't have to listen all the time, because trust me when I tell you, the listeners light my phone up all day. So I don't have to ever listen, because they're like, ugh. So that's why I can't listen, because I'm usually dealing with problems. Not really problems, but did you hear so-and-so said this, So, but we don't mind it, because I love that they're engaged. But I don't have to listen, because if you look on the app, they're letting me know if they think they said something wrong, or they're texting me or emailing me. But we've really been lucky. We really have, I feel like we have the strongest lineup we've had the entire time. We have good people. We try to really, I believe in life, and I guess in business, this is one of the things I would stress to you the most. I believe you become the people you surround yourself with. So I really try to be very careful of that, even though I know not everybody's perfect. Everybody's going to make mistakes. But when people do things in their life that I don't morally agree with, even though it may not be the best decision for my business or the radio stations, I remove that, because I feel like if I have that there, then I'm saying it's okay, or I'm okay with it, and then I'm allowing that into my life, and I just won't do that. So that's one thing that I'm really serious about, and I say all the time, if I don't feel good about it, I can't support it and be involved in it. So we really have tried to do that, and we have great people involved with the station. I would love to do more with the school boards, to answer your question, and we try to. All of the hosts bring the candidates on and we interview them, but what I found, and that's what I wish they would realize, is you have the division is so strong and so intense, and you have the far right that gets so radical that they almost, in my opinion, make themselves look crazy at times, which I'm like, stop, because then nobody's hearing you. And that's what I try to get through to some of our hosts as well. I'm like, when you go that way, like, nobody's hearing you. They're not taking you serious. And the same with the far left. They go so crazy to go. I've never told anyone, don't use this business, even if it's a Democrat, or cancel this, even with the Bud Light stuff. We did not do that. Would I go buy their products? No. But I'm not going to go and say, boycott this business, cancel this, because then I know better than them. I'll do what I want in my own house. I don't need to go tell everybody about it and tell people what to do, because we do have an influence. So I learned, and I'll give you an example, Dunkin' Donuts. When you're in business, especially with a national franchise, there's local businesses all throughout the US that buy into that franchise. So there were some hosts on our station that were telling people, I forgot, do you remember, Ryan, what Dunkin' Donuts did? There's so much all the time I can't even keep up. They did something and people were just irate, so conservatives were telling them, don't go to Dunkin' Donuts. So,
I don't even remember
but
why it was happening.
yeah, I thought it was, I can't remember, but they did something that really upset people. With that being said, I did not say anything about it, but I shared a post that was put out there by a national host, not our host, about it. And I received a message on Facebook from a local Dunkin' Donuts owner in St. Louis County. I won't say which location, but he's like, I just want to tell you, I listen to your station all the time. I don't agree with what they said. I am a conservative, and it just really, disappoints me that my business is suffering now because of what, another franchise said in another state. It's affecting all of us. And I was like, wow, I never thought about it like that. And while I didn't say it, I just shared the post. We have a large impact. And I'm like, I hate that. I'm going to take it down because I appreciate you reaching out to me. And, I reminded our host at the time, just keep in mind, like, our words really matter. Do I agree with everything they say all the time? No, but not everybody else agrees with them either. So I try, none of us are perfect, but I try to really be cautious of that, because you never know what someone else is going through. My niece was 20 and passed away in April of last year, which has probably been the most difficult thing my family's ever been through. We still deal with it daily. She had asthma and got the flu, and within 2 days, stopped breathing. Donated her organs and saved a lot of lives. But I've learned during that time, you never know what people are going through. So watching my brother and my sister-in-law have to continue living every day, and going shopping, going to the grocery store, and having that normal and like everything's okay. So I think that has made me soften some, to not be so harsh on my political beliefs, because it makes you realize, like, everybody's going through something. We're all dealing with loss, or losing a loved one, or family members battling diseases. And, I think people need to realize we're all Americans, we're all people, and everybody needs to learn to, be a little kinder. And I think if we did that, our voices would be heard a lot better.
Really nice.
We live in a culture where you can go on the internet and find out the doctors want you to comment on them, and people put a lot of emphasis on what other people are saying about a particular doctor, and sometimes those things aren't true.
Yeah, I know.
And then we've
it's
got
scary.
social media that is really out of whack.
It really is, and I get carried away even with it myself sometimes, because you get caught up in it and you're like, oh, people need to know this, and you're sharing it. But that's why I stress to people, and we can only be in charge of ourselves. And I stress to people all the time, do your own homework. People will go, it's so frustrating. I know Brian probably deals with this on his show every day. All of our hosts do. People have gotten lazy, and nobody wants to do their own work, and it's so frustrating. I can't tell you, I'm not saying it to pat myself on the back, but for us to have 60 plus thousand followers on our social media, when we have been restricted by Facebook the entire time we've been on the air, so over 3 years, I've never been able to buy like any ads to promote our page. I've never been able to be recommended, like, when you're on your Facebook feed, how it will pop up as a recommendation to follow and like a page. They've blocked us from everything. I can't even tell you the amount of times I've been in Facebook jail over a post that was nothing, and not even able to post for 30 days. So my point is, while they've done all of that to us, and I don't say this to knock 97.1, but they've been on the air probably 20 plus years. Their Facebook page has 18,000 followers. We've been on, 3 years and have over 60,000 while I've been censored and blocked and banned. But what I will say is every time we post information, we'll post all the information and then people will comment and be like, where's the links? Where's this? And I do it on purpose because I'm like, when are we ever gonna learn? Have we not learned anything in the last 4 years? And I'm like, you need to go look yourself. I mean, I'm thinking, okay, I'm working 2 jobs full-time. I'm like giving you all this information and you want me to provide you all this? Like, you need to do some homework. Like, we've got to stop being so lazy and hold ourselves accountable, and quit trusting everything you hear. I look at like what you're saying with the doctors, take everything with a grain of salt, just like everything in our life. And then go do your homework, because we cannot trust anything 100%. Just because even we say it doesn't mean it's 100%. We all have to make our own decisions for ourselves.
I think people ask for links specifically for that reason though, because you can say, not you, a person can
Yeah.
say anything on the internet, and
For
if you
sure.
don't have a link, where is the source? Where did you hear that, or is that just coming out of your opinionated head?
I get it.
So I definitely try to, I think there's a different level of lazy when there are links provided and people won't click on them, or they'll read the headline and they won't read the entire article.
Yeah.
Because, I teach a class and I post screenshots because I might give that link out and that link might be broken 2
Yeah.
weeks from now, or they've taken it down, or, and this is the worst thing.
Yeah, that's what I say.
You go and you get a article from some online journal, some news page or whatever, and they will make changes on it, and they often won't even say updated such and such a date.
Right.
You go back, and I've actually got a screenshot on one of my lessons where I show a screenshot, and then I went to click on the link the next day, but luckily I took a screenshot of it, and they had edited it, said nothing, but the part that I was trying to highlight was taken out.
Oh, okay.
So
It's always changing too.
yeah, it's very difficult to do all your own homework, but
I
that's
get
all
it.
I do. I spend, most of my time doing research.
Yeah, it's a lot, and I do try to provide the links as much as I can, but a lot of times, like you, I'm screenshotting, and I don't just post things, I'll screenshot them because I want people to see where the source came
Exactly.
from.
Exactly.
I don't like it to be like it's coming from me,
Right.
because I'm nobody. Like, I'll screenshot, where it came from so that people know where to go look.
Your story is so interesting to all of us, and probably on a number of different levels. In 1948, my mother voted Democrat, and my father voted conservative,
Yeah?
Republican, and it was a real battle. That was to Truman.
Oh, I
And
bet.
Truman became our governor here. Fast forward to just a few years ago, my wife and I became very good friends with the Eckelkamp family. And you just mentioned the Eckelkamp family. I had no idea that they were interested in radio.
Well, it's not that they're interested in radio, they're interested in business. I'm actually meeting Buzz at 4 o'clock today. But, so when you own a bank, a lot of times people will do loans at banks and then not pay their loan or whatever. So sometimes they acquire things that they didn't necessarily set out to have. And then they have to figure out, what am I gonna do with this? So, but the Eckelkamps also do have a station in Washington, in Franklin County, a small local station. I forgot the dial on that one. I don't know if Ryan knows, but he has several. There's also another one called K-Wolf, that's rock and roll. So they have probably, I mean, I'm guessing, but I would say probably 7, 8 different stations. He does not want to be involved or run or operate them. It's just something that they might acquire through their
But
bank.
they are solid conservatives from
Yes.
as far back as I can remember.
They are.
In fact, Mr. Eckelkamp and I were part of a group of young presidents of little companies that
Oh.
never knew where we were going to go.
Yeah.
But his company has just done fabulously.
They have, and they're opening a new bank in St. Louis County, and I apologize. I cannot remember, but Central Bank or something with a C, I can't remember. But surprisingly, while they have own banks, you know, Buzz's real love is volunteering and being a volunteer firefighter. So I can be with him in a meeting and his beeper's going off and I gotta go, Tracy, I gotta go on this call. So just like all of us, you know, that's the one thing I think today when we were talking about faith and having a business, that I could say to all of you, you younger ones especially, is find the things too that give you joy and make you feel like you can make a difference when you have a business, because it is tough at times. I say all the time, that's why I'm overweight, because it's extremely stressful having businesses, but at the same time, there's many blessings. But it's a lot of pressure, a lot of weight to know, like, I'm responsible for these people. I'm responsible for hundreds of thousands of people listening on the radio. In real estate, that's people's largest investment, their home. God forbid, thank the Lord, I've been blessed, but I've only had one incident in almost 30 years where someone had an issue where they couldn't close. But to have that on your heart and knowing, like, I'm responsible for these people having a home, or you deal with people that lost their husband that they've been married to for 40 years and are having to sell their home, like, that's such a thing on your heart. So it's stressful, but it's a blessing, because I said I always wanted to be a lawyer, and I became a mom very young, so I could not spend that time to go to college and be an attorney. So I said, this is a way I feel like I can give back, to be in real estate and feel like you're helping people with their home, especially in a difficult time. When 07 and 08 came around and people were losing their homes left and right, like, that was a devastating time to have to, you know, go to these people's homes and have them crying, you know, knowing they're losing their home and can't afford it. But at the same time, we were able to help them through a very difficult situation and get them in a better situation. And so find the career that you feel like you're going to make a difference, because in the end, that's what gives you the most joy, is just feeling like you did make an impact with your career.